Last league list laid down. Down under Defense Department disseminates diplomacy. Federation founds fresh front door. For the Diplomacy Broadcast Network, I'm David Hood, and this is Deadline, DBN's monthly news program. Happy holidays and Dateline, December 2020. For our feature story, one of the earliest decisions to make in a game of diplomacy is whether to join an opening alliance, and if so, which one. Experienced hobbyists have their favorite alliances, some with picturesque nicknames, while others avoid early commitment to any particular alliance structure, preferring limited agreements and shifting allegiances. We have assembled a panel of 3 hobby personalities, each with a unique background and view of the game, to dive deeply into the pros and cons of entering into an opening alliance and to discuss particular great power combinations. But first, a look at headlines from around the world of diplomacy. The Virtual Diplomacy League completed its last game day of the season with 5 boards on December 12th. It was definitely the day to draw Germany, as all 5 German players had very strong finishes. Based upon the results from that game day, the VDL top board is now set. John Anderson of Utah wins the regular season and is the number 1 seed for that top board to be played in January. Continuing down the list from 2nd to 7th, we have Vermont's Morgante Pell, Karthik Conniff of California, Tanya Gill from Ontario, the Texan Ed Sullivan, Dave Roberts from Washington State, and another Canadian, Liam Stokes from British Columbia, sneaking into that 7th slot just a hair above 8th place finisher and thus total also ran, Ben Kelman from Pennsylvania. The VDL takes February off because of the DBN Invitational Tournament set for that month, but then roars back for Season 2 beginning in March. For more information, look for the VDL tag on our DBN website, diplobn.com. One particular chaplain in the Australian Army has proposed using diplomacy as a vehicle for experiential character training. Based upon his experiences as a minister, a soldier, and game enthusiast, John Danzy writes on the official website for the Australian Army's professional military education that diplomacy is a viable tool for such training because it encourages strategic thinking and planning, as well as communication, as each country considers how it can use its available resources and those of its neighbors to capture its objectives. The training regimen he proposes will involve playing weekly games, discussion and lectures regarding lessons learned in the games, and reflection on how each player responds to the strategic, emotional, and communication challenges involved. No word yet on whether the Australian Department of Defense intends to collaborate on this project with Brisbane's own Amby and Kaner from the Diplomacy Games podcast. Stay tuned. Back in November 2020, the fine folk at Facebook, who are working on the development of an artificial intelligence player for diplomacy, decided to set up a bot player on webdiplomacy.net for the play of that fun 2-person variant France versus Austria on their website. After first suffering loss after loss, those plucky human players at WebDip have begun to consistently win against the machine in the last week or so of constant bot battle. If you want to join this brave fight against Skynet, the Matrix machines, or whatever you want to call them, go sign up at webdiplomacy.net and make us all proud. The North American Diplomacy Federation has debuted its new website, designed to be a front door to the hobby for those who are new to the game or new to the wider diplomacy community. The site examines diplomacy basics, explains them, shows links to clubs, online games, tournaments, and various other forms of diplomacy media, and provides resources for dip enthusiasts both to improve their play and to connect with other hobbyists. Every week, a news item will be posted, and upcoming league or tournament play will be promoted. To check out this brand new service to the diplomacy hobby, go to thenadf.com. THENADF.org. In Nexus news, the second gunboat tournament begins registration on December 15th. This is a follow-up event to the inaugural event played last summer. The tournament will debut a new scoring system called Mind the Gap, in which players receive points per center, divide a pot of survival points, and the board topper receives bonus points for the spread above the second place player. The Nexus community also has Season 6 of its Classic Dip tournament starting. It organizes speedboat games and tournaments and runs other variant events. Players from all the major online communities participate in Nexus events, so sign up for these events today on the Nexus Discord server. The Academy of Creative Destruction, the ACD, is looking for new members. The ACD has up to now been an invitation-only organization, beginning over 30 years ago on the Cat23 online forum. The diplomacy games are old school, played by male and human adjudicated, and are typically run full press with the identity of the players known to each other. The ACD has included both face-to-face and online world champions as members. What is most important to the ACD is one's reliability and dedication to each game. Deadlines are typically in the 3 to 7 day range for movement turns and somewhat shorter for retreats and adjustments. In addition to Classic Dip, the group plays and play tests many variants. For more information, email David Cohen at ZENDIP18 at OPTONLINE.net or contact him by private message on the NADF Discord server. Brother Board's excellent podcast series Diplomacy Dojo has just added episode 6, in which Brother discusses opportunities to pull off a mid-game stab within an Anglo-German alliance. He explains the most common scenario for allowing the usually difficult German move against England, combining a sneak into the North Sea along with taking out English possessions in Russia or France or Iberia, and then he turns the tables by suggesting ways that England could stab Germany with a convoy into Denmark or Holland. Always insightful and always thorough. You can count on the dojo for good diplomacy advice in a convenient audio-only format. Check out all 6 episodes at brotherboard, BORED.com, or wherever you download your podcasts. Weasel of the Year for 2020 was just decided in the Chicago Diplomacy Club's final series of games on December 5th, known as the Weasel Pile. DBN's own Brandon Fogel is that regular season winner, just edging out rookie Wesley Ketchum based upon a guess between Warsaw and Moscow in the last turn of the last game played. Whew. Now the Weasel Royale Championship board for the Windy City Weasels has been set, featuring the top 7 regular season finishers in order: past champ Brandon Fogel, runner-up Wesley Ketchum, another past champ Ali Adib in 3rd, then rookie Jay Honolt, 2020 Dixicon winner Christian Klein, longtime Weasel Carlos Trevino in 6th, and another DBN personality, Brian Prevel, in the 7th position. For more information about this club, its history, and season-by-season results, visit WindyCityWeasels.org. The inaugural Virtual World Diplomacy Classic kicks off on Friday, December 18th, with 6 rounds total being offered through that Saturday evening, the 19th. The top 7 finishers shall advance to a final board on Sunday, December 20th. The event will use Backstabber for the moves and Discord for negotiations, and is being run by GMs from around the world since the rounds offered are at times conducive to play from anywhere on the globe. There are well over 100 registered already, so add your name to the list by visiting Bill Hackenbrack's Liberty Cup website and looking for the VWDC page, or you can find the VWDC Discord server invite in the description field below this broadcast. Also coming up on the virtual tournament circuit is the Cascadia Open, to be held on January 30th, and then Diplomacy's Big Dance, The DBN Invitational set for February, which will include this season's event winners as automatic bids, with the remaining members of the 28-person field being made up of the top finishers from all the year's qualifying face-to-face, virtual face-to-face, and online events. For more information, visit diplobn.com. To our feature story on the subject of opening alliances. When diplomacy games are analyzed by players or observers, one key feature early in the game is, of course, the alliance structure. Do two of the three Western powers ally against the third? Or do they present the dreaded Western triple to the Eastern side of the board? Speaking of the East, do we get a scary RT juggernaut? A quick start AT AstroTurk? A late breaking IT Kraken? The crafty IR Wintergreen, or do we get some other yet to be adequately nicknamed coupling? Do you ever need to enter into an early game alliance at all, for that matter? To help us determine the answers to these questions, let's consult this month's panel members. First, we have Douglas Rentoul, aka Florida Man, of his highly regarded YouTube series of videos. We also have Wesley Ketchum, fresh from his pursuit of the coveted title Weasel of the Year in the trenches of the 2020 season of league play within Chicago's diplomacy club, the Windy City Weasels. Joining them as our third panelist is longtime face-to-face player and past tournament winner, Andy Bartoloni of Maryland. So Andy, let's start with you. How important do you think it is to form an early alliance partner in a game of diplomacy?
Whereas it's not critical, at a very minimum, you need to be you want to be at least be at an impasse with your immediate neighbors, regardless of whether you're in the East or the West. You do not want immediate animosity from both, two or more of them. You want to have at least someone on your side, so that if you do run into an issue where one person is being overly aggressive to you, you have a way so that you're not fighting in a two-front war, and you have a way to collect at the beginning of the game. You have a way to collect some neutrals and grow your position to a place where you can defend yourself and potentially grow further with other alliance play from other players, other neighbors even.
Douglas, how about you? Do you typically do a commitment early to an alliance partner, or do you wait and avoid that kind of early commitment?
I tend to like a strong early alliance most of the time. I think that when you're non-committal, people tend to end up looking elsewhere, and a strong early game is how you get to the mid game. So,
yeah, what Doug just said is true. You want to be strong with all your neighbors, so that even if you're not actually allied with them, they're hesitant to be aggressive towards you.
What about you, Wes? Do you look at this differently, or do you have the similar opinion to Doug and Andy on this subject?
No, I think I definitely share the similar opinion. I think that one of the key things that you want to avoid at the beginning of the game is to be ganged up on by all of your neighbors. Like that's clearly something that's not going to go well for you for the most part. And so if you can establish a good working relationship with somebody else, that's a really good way to guarantee that you're not going to get ganged up on. And so being able to do that is can be an important way to get started and to get rolling.
So what you're saying is I should not be ganged up. Man, I've been doing this game wrong all this time. No wonder I keep getting
so have I done.
Getting messed up.
Who thought?
Wesley, what about in Weasel play? Do you see very many triples?
Oh, I think a 3-power alliance is often just a 2-power alliance that's making an investment for the future. Putting the other ally in the oven and getting ready to pull them out later. I think especially with the Weasels, I think the play is often very balance of power focused. And so an aggressive, offensive-facing triple alliance can really set the board set the board at unease, and have major rippling effects every place. And so it's not something I think that you see very often, and it's usually used to get two powers as part of that to their advantage, to push somebody forward and then to take advantage of that.
Well, staying with you, Wes, do you have a favorite alliance in the West? If it's not a Western triple, what's your favorite alliance in the West?
Yeah, definitely not a Western triple. One of my favorite alliances is the Franco-German alliance. Both as France and as Germany, I really like the opportunities that they have to work together and the sort of dynamic play that can evolve. It doesn't have to go in a particular way. And depending on how each power maneuvers it as they typically work together on England and work together to kind of keep things balanced otherwise, you can set yourself up to have the upper hand at the right time. And I'm always looking to be in an alliance where I can set myself up to have the upper hand at the right time. So,
and it's fun to kill the Wicked Witch of the West. Come on.
Absolutely.
How about the Eastern powers? Do you have an Eastern alliance that you're particularly fond of?
I think in the East, I'm quite fond of the Italian-Turkish alliance, the Kraken. I think that it's one of the fun things about it is that it's not something that people are necessarily expecting to see, and it can be a little bit slower to develop. But especially if Italy starts to get in position, like they're going to be attacking Turkey, it can be very quick for them to turn around and make the plunge into Austria with Turkish help. And so there can be a really fast and dynamic and exciting sort of set of turns and years to kind of set that alliance up and to get them propel them forward.
What about you, Andy? Do you like the Kraken in the East, or do you prefer some other alliance to start off?
I mean, if I have a preference, it's AT, Austria, Turkey. I very much prefer Austria is my favorite country to play. And the country that I find the easiest to be allied with is Turkey. You let them be the fleet power, you're the army power, you give them Moscow and Sevastopol, you get to go north and just, it's as with any big alliance, once you actually start gaining some size and some girth, don't give them a stab that propels them. Just 2 dots in position, just don't give it. And AT can go a long way.
What about in the West, Andy? Which one do you prefer in the West?
One where I'm not having 3 people attack me.
So not your normal game. So in games in which you don't have everybody attacking you, what's your favorite alliance? The 5% games we're talking about.
Probably EG, England, Germany, mostly because people would argue with me over this, but I'm pretty horrible at playing France. And France, in any of those combinations, I feel that France has the upper hand. As long as Italy doesn't attack them out of the gate, France has the upper hand in any alliance with France. So let's take down France and then do the other things to the board.
All right, so you're a Francophobe. I think we've got that established. Douglas, this is your chance. Florida man, this is your chance to criticize anything you've heard so far and/or present your own favorite alliances.
Well, I don't know about criticize. I will gently disagree with a couple of things. I think that the Western Triple can be okay if I'm England.
Or France.
And it's definitely not okay if I'm Germany. I think that what my favorite alliance is will depend on the power I'm playing. So in the West, if I'm France, I'd like to work with Germany. If I'm Germany, I used to have a preference toward France, but experience has shown me I should work with England. If I'm England, I'm kind of flexible, but I like to work with France there.
Well, one thing we should say to the viewers here is that all of this, of course, is totally dependent on the players involved. This is just our predilections before we meet the players.
Could not agree with
Players
you
and what
more.
they say is actually way more important than this. But that doesn't mean we don't have preferences. So, Doug, how about an Eastern preference?
In the East, I think if I'm Russia, I like the Juggernaut. If I'm Austria or Turkey, I like the Austro-Turk. Or maybe if I'm Turkey, I might like to try that Kraken. But as you pointed out, it really depends on the other players. I tend to find if I can get two of my neighbors to attack each other, I really like to do that, and then I can commit to whoever most aggressively showed that they wanted to be on my side.
Well, one alliance actually two alliances that have not been mentioned so far would be the AR and the AI, which the AI is a little surprising to me, as popular as that alliance really is in modern diplomacy play. Nobody mentioned that as a favorite alliance. Wes, how come? Why didn't you mention AI?
Oh, it's so boring. It's
Okay.
No. I think the AI. So the AI alliance is a very strong alliance, and can be. I've seen it many times. Sort of take over and be able to rule the board. I think one of the things is that it's very easy to see Austria and Italy agree to get along in the beginning, because it's generally accepted that if Austria and Italy fight straight out of the gate, that it can be quite bad for both of them. And in that sense, that establishes both some boredom to an AI, because it's sort of expected to see it as a quote unquote opening alliance, but it also presents itself an opportunity of being able to establish a working relationship with somebody on the board, to be able to make agreements and to be able to set a tone of working together, and that can develop into a really strong, longer lasting relationship. And so it really has something going for it in that sense.
Andy, as I mentioned, the AR was something we haven't brought up yet. A structural problem can be with the Austro-Russian alliance that there's no fleets, or there's very few fleets in the Med to be in control.
Well, the other part to the AR is they share a gigantic border, and the Russian has two of his home centers essentially border Austria. Sevastopol could be said to border Austria. Warsaw borders Austria, as if you count Galicia as part of Austria. So if you try not to build on your allies' border, in my world, so I don't see it as functionally working well together. It's also, as Austria, it's really easy to get the Turk on board to take down Austria once you have a little bit of advantage.
Well, I will say, in the some of the play in the fall, we've actually seen a lot of AR alliances, a lot of DMZs of Galicia. So somebody's trying to make it work.
So
Douglas, let me ask
go
you
back to your other question, David, about AIs. In my experience playing face to face, RTs are much more popular than any other Eastern alliance. They're easy to set up. They're all in two corners, whatever. And if an RT is set up, AI has to come together, or they eat Austria and then they eat Italy.
So AI can be a defensive alliance.
I think it's more it's more often defensive than it is offensive.
Well, Douglas, tell us an interesting or unusual alliance structure that you recall from a game, whether you were in that alliance or facing such an alliance.
Well, I consider this an unusual alliance because I don't see it too often. But recently I was in a game where I was Turkey, and I faced an Austria-Italy-Russia alliance. So all of my neighbors just attacking me. And
I am not that unfamiliar with that.
It provoked a Western triple on the other side of the map.
I bet it did.
So I can't say it was as effective as they probably would have liked, but it's certainly been effective against me.
If their goal was to kill the Turks, mission accomplished.
Yeah, it falls back into the category of the saying that if three come for you, you die.
Wes, make me an argument for an alliance that you don't see very often.
Yeah, I was just thinking I was also on the bad end of a Austria, Italy, Russia alliance as Germany. That also did not go so well. As with respect to an alliance you don't see often, one an English-Russia alliance I think is an interesting one. It's one maybe that's a bit outside of maybe what one expects in terms of an alliance, where you can have an alliance that isn't necessarily pushing for the strongest offense and trying to take so many dots, but is really built around trying to maintain and have good neighbors, and use that again as a making an agreement of not wasting forces, trying to fight over Scandinavia, and then being able to use those to your advantage. And if you're able to come to some agreement over, we're not going to have England trying to push into St. Pete. We're not going to have Russia building and pushing in the north. But maybe, okay, if we agree on that, maybe then we can actually, push a little south from the top of the board and make some gains in Germany and work from there. And so the ER is something that I think can be a potentially really interesting thing.
Sometimes they call that the Great Northern Alliance.
Yeah.
Douglas, have you ever seen that in a game?
I believe I have seen that, yes, and I was surprised by how effective it was. And naturally, in that game, I was neither England nor Russia. I was Germany.
Well, they'll keep you around until France is dead.
I'm thoughtful.
Exactly.
Very thoughtful. Andy, let me go to you now.
So,
is there an alliance that you cannot stand to see forming on the other side of the board? Makes you
if I am any of the Western powers except England, I never ever want to see an RT or a rat for that matter. Because if I'm Germany and there isn't a Western triple, it's problematic to begin with. You probably can't kill England fast enough so that Russia doesn't get all of Scandinavia. And if I'm in the East, I don't like to see an EF, mostly because I'm going to be the front line in the East to when that rolls over Germany. I'm going to suddenly be holding the line with an active Turk behind me. Many problematic things can happen.
You slipped into assuming that you were playing Austria because you like playing Austria. Wes, let me go to you.
I'm also pretty good at it.
Well, good. Wes, let me go to you. Give us your final thoughts. Give the viewers your final thoughts about opening alliance play in diplomacy.
Yeah, we touched, I think, both Andy and Douglas touched on this a bit at the beginning in terms of, thinking about also being able to think about alliances, and why we want opening alliances is to not be attacked and to not have everybody coming after you. I think sometimes an opening alliance isn't necessarily something that has to be making big moves in spring of 01 and being super well coordinated. A lot of times opening alliances can take a little bit of time to develop. And so maintaining good relationships with your neighbors and maintaining opportunities to be able to work together depending on how the board shakes out can often lead to what is a more traditional opening alliance and what you would think of in terms of the moves you would do, in spring of 01.
Florida man, what do you think? Give us your final thoughts here.
I think that I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning, that to me, the most important thing is to have one really firm early ally. But I would also add that it's good to have another really strong possible future ally that you've done a lot of communicating with, and to have that potential for forming a little gang of three so that it'll be difficult in the future for your enemies to outnumber you. the central triple, in my mind, is one of those things where Austria and Italy are quite naturally probably going to work together because there's a good chance that RT is forming. Germany might not be able to do very much to help them early on, but I think it is helpful to have that third person in the loop who you can discuss with and maybe get an extra unit or two of help from.
Yeah, Germany can often do that. They can send a unit to the east and intervene in some way, even if they're not fully committed to the east. That's what you're talking about, I guess.
Yes.
All right, Andy, take us home here. Tell us what to do.
Sure. So one of the things I didn't mention initially, but you did, David, was that it's almost more important who the players are than what powers they're playing. And you weigh the player, what you know about them, reputation, trustworthiness, all of those things. And you work very hard to make sure that you're not getting jumped, to be short on it. And then decide, at least the way I do things is I typically decide through 1901 and parts of 1902, if I do not have an active aggressor toward me, to decide sort of what the balance is of what is going to be, what's the best option I have, and how are we going to move forward, and to know that if I do choose to ally with someone, in a very strong alliance, to make sure that there's some balance in power there, so that as you move forward there, that you can do the things you need to do, and you don't have to worry about such things as a disparity in center counts and things like that.
Fair enough. Well, guys, I appreciate the discussion very much. I promise you, after this discussion, I would ally with any of y'all.
Well, thank you, David.
Thanks, David.
For a while.
I'm shocked.
Thanks for being on the program. And thanks to all of you watching at home. We hope you have enjoyed this broadcast of Deadline. If you have news, ideas for features, or feedback of any kind, please feel free to send an email to info@diplobn.com, or you can drop me a line directly using davidhood@dixiecon.com. For our other broadcast offerings, visit our website at diplobn.com. This is David Hood, signing off. I wish you brightness and bliss and, of course, Belgium.